Sonic games will never be the same going forward. I know, I've said this before in different videos, but I mean it in a way you probably don't expect. Obviously, a lot has changed with Sonic over the last few years, but there's a lot that hasn't changed with Sonic, mostly with the development cycle of these games. They still rush Sonic games. They still plan to release these games around holiday season. These games still don't always have the greatest budget, even Sonic Frontiers. But also, things are going to be a lot different, and whether it's going to be for the better or worse is to be decided, so let's talk about it. So big numero one, the big thing that I think is going to be changing Sonic for good, honestly, is the multimedia aspect. Multimedia is something that has brought new life to Sonic, and to some people they don't really enjoy it as much, but I feel like it's kind of hard for me to not enjoy multimedia because it brings a lot of aspects of Sonic that I can enjoy without actually playing the games. I enjoy the Sonic movies, they're really good. I didn't really enjoy Sonic Prime that much, but I respect it. But overall, because of this aspect, Sonic games are going to be relying heavily on other things that aren't video games. Our big example here is Sonic X Shadow Generations. That game is solely based around the release date of Sonic Movie 3, and because Shadow was in it, they needed to drop a game that has Shadow in it because it would be just overall free cross promotion of Sonic, and it will lead to more game sales naturally. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for Sega to do, but it could be a bad thing for the games. If we're solely relying on the release date of other bigger things in the franchise, it could lead to lower quality games due to rushing these games to get them out to match the release dates. I think that's not necessarily a smart move if they want to focus on the quality of these games. Sega literally said with Frontiers and Beyond they're going to be focusing on taking more time with these games, but I doubt that's really going to be the case here, especially with these movies and TV shows dropping. As cool as I think Sonic X Shadow Generations is, I think the game does look too much like Forces, and it reminds me too much of things that already exist, even some heavy animation reusing from Forces and Sonic Frontiers. Again, this doesn't mean the game is bad by any means, but it's just kind of clear how the budget is probably on this game. At least the animation cutscenes look great, but overall, I'm a little worried for the future in that aspect. But one big way Sonic will be changing is I think the classic Sonic era is kind of over. I know Superstars just came out, but the sales weren't the greatest to Sega and they're not too happy with those. And on top of that, starting with Sonic X Shadow Generations, they're going to be focusing on the Dreamcast era and just the dark age, it seems like, in terms of nostalgia pandering. Now, I don't think nostalgia pandering is necessarily an amazing thing, but if there's something that I've been waiting for, it's been a return to this era. I need to see this era return in the best ways possible. I obviously want new stuff alongside all of that, but it should never be the main meal, but I still want it to be anyways. I want Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remakes. I like seeing the callbacks to Black Doom and Shadow the Hedgehog. I want more of this stuff. I would rather have that than just the overabundance of classic that we've gotten, and I love classic Sonic. I even love bringing all of that back, but I think it's time to do something else now. And in a way, it kind of feels like that's the road we're going to that dark age, Dreamcast era, whatever you want to call that era of Sonic, and it's kind of exciting to me if I'm being honest. And in a way, I kind of have to thank the movie for it because the movie's bringing in Shadow and has all these references, and it kind of just leads to the adventure era. So shout out to the movie. But obviously its greatest challenge will be maintaining it actually being good. But another way that I've kind of talked about this before is despite all this stuff and all these games and this news blowout, there's something about Sonic that has definitely changed. It definitely feels geared more towards younger people than before. Sonic, of course, is always cool to like kids and whatnot, but it was definitely different when I was a kid. It felt like instead of the series growing up with me, it was regressing. Things like Sonic Prime getting compared to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is not a future I thought I'd ever see. And it's probably why I can't really take the show seriously enough to enjoy it, is the writing style doesn't really fit what I enjoy. I'm not saying I need it to be some super dark or edgy series or anything, it's still Sonic at the end of the day, I want it to be fun. But I can't help but feel that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse feeling. And when I think back to like Sonic X, and just that era of Sonic in general that I grew up with, it definitely wasn't aimed for little kids. It just kind of felt like it was for everybody. And they even experimented with Shadow the Hedgehog, having that game be a bit more edgy and have him curse. I'm not saying that's necessarily the way to go, but I'm just saying the ideal Sonic fan in Sega's head wasn't someone who's necessarily 10 years old. I felt like it was multiple age groups, and a lot of the Sonic games were hard enough to the point where it would be enjoyable for other age groups, but it kind of feels like we're going downwards. And the thing is, Sega has recognized this with Sonic Frontiers. And the thing is, during the 2010s, Sonic got only more and more like that, and Sega tried to correct this with Sonic Frontiers with a more complex story and good character writing, which was very surprising of Frontiers. And their target demographic was basically a more mature story in terms of the actual writing, and they did a good job with that. But the thing is, everywhere else in the brand does not feel like that. And Sonic's not the only brand to struggle with this. I feel like there's something like Spider-Man, where you'll be watching the newest Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, and then you're looking through Disney Plus and you see Spider-Man's version of PJ Masks or something. But at least with Spider-Man, it's way more uniform across the board, and those kinds of things are more of like an exception. And I feel like Spider-Man and Sonic are almost on the same kind of tone level. So I want to see Sega strike that balance, because it seems like they're having trouble with the whole entire tone aspect of Sonic, and I kind of want to go more in depth in that, but in another video. But overall, those are the three main things that I want to talk about briefly about Sonic changing, and probably forever if I'm being honest. That last one could go either way, but I definitely feel like that's the route it's going, that everything is just going to be the way it is, and we're going to get a few Frontier-like games every now and then, but everything is going to be uniformly like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And I guess the more it goes that way, you may see less of me if I'm being honest, at least for Sonic. But I don't know, that's just how I feel, and that's what I think is going to happen. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.